What I would like to do today is to talk a little bit about how corporations can actually contribute to poverty alleviation. This is something that I've in recent times become quite passionate about myself, particularly following Typhoon Yolanda, in which I was quite involved. I recently had the privilege back in March of joining ICM on a trip to Iloilo to visit some of their communities to understand the work which HSBC was contributing part of their financing. One of the first communities we went to visit was a squatter community in Iloilo city itself, and we met a number of people, different families, including this gentleman here. So this gentleman's position was as a father of 5 young children, all below the age of 9 years old. The area in which he lived, it's kind of easy to describe because it's so basic and so very, very small, and yet hard to describe because it's kind of hard to imagine how somebody lives in such a small space. In an area which is effectively a 3-walled shelter, not waterproof. One of the walls is an outer wall as a part of the community, which is where the kitchen is, which is the wall you can see him sat against there. And in that very small place, he lived with his 5 children. That's a pretty dire situation, only made more dire by the fact that his wife, clearly lacking hope, left him and his 5 children, and her 5 children. So as many of you I'm sure are parents in the audience, the thought of being put into a position where you are willing to leave 5 young children behind is very suggestive of a particularly dire situation. When we visited this gentleman, on the floor, one of the basic things that they had was a piece of sponge, effectively their bed. On this piece of sponge was a small child, about 8 to 9 years old, the eldest child. He was pretty much comatose, and one of the people in our group that was there, we were talking, not that quietly, yet that child did not move. He was pretty much looked comatose, completely out of it. And a journalist that we were with, she leant over to me and said, "Do you think it's glue sniffing? Now why else would a child be so out of it that it doesn't even move when you have 6 people talking right next to him?" What it actually turns out is that their family have access to drinking water between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. So he, as the eldest child, is asked to go and collect water, to go and queue with everybody else, bring the water back, and then go back and queue again, and bring the water back and queue again, through the early hours of the morning. So he was not glue sniffing at all. He was just physically exhausted from being awake all night. Other members of the community that we met there, similar situations. And then we moved on to another community the following day. This is now a rural community, about 2.5 hours north of Iloilo, where we met, among others, this elderly couple. And they're in a community which was still recovering from Typhoon Yolanda. To give you an idea of the level of devastation, this is what the typhoon did to their home, and 18 months later, this is still the state of their home. This is where they live. What you can't exactly see is just behind that there's a collection of bits of corrugated iron and planks put together under which they now live, effectively a handmade shelter. Now the government did help in the sense that the government provided them 35,000 pesos to help rebuild their home. However, in this particular case, the elderly gentleman, he fell ill with a kidney and a liver problem and had to go to hospital. Unfortunately, the hospital bill after 1 week was 39,000 pesos. And he needed now life-supporting medicine constantly. It's one of these times when you understand that the cycle of poverty really is a cycle. It's almost impossible to get out of without somebody doing something to lift you out of that cycle. In their case, the 39,000 peso bill was financed by the 35,000 peso grant, which was there to rebuild the home. Plus, in order to afford the ongoing medications and the rest of the bill, they were forced to sell their small farm holding, their only access to income. So with that, they now have very little income. The lady has now found a job working in a sari-sari store where she earns about 90 pesos a day, enough for her to buy rice 1 kilo at a time, and that is all that they eat. Her outgoings are 110 pesos a day. So therefore, every day they're getting further and further into poverty. How do you get out of that cycle? So this is very much where ICM come into the fold, into the picture. We joined the ICM team, so we joined the health worker and the livelihood teacher, 2 people from ICM who went with us to this community. First of all, when they meet with the community, they're doing various health checks on children. As David says, the 40 million data points, some of the collection is going on at that site, the data gathering. And then we get on to the VHL program, the Transform program, Values, Health and Livelihood program that David talked about. The values training is given by the local pastor, or in this case, pastora. And after that half an hour or so talk, we talk about basic health education. And we also delivered the livelihood training, teaching people how to make banana chips and make a living, an additional income from making banana chips. So we've actually seen this program in action and what it actually brings to the community. And I think, among other things, it brings hope. You can actually see the difference, physically see the difference it is making to the families on the ground in these communities. How much they value the training that they're going through and the lessons that they are learning from it. One of the things that I actually encourage people to attend, because I guess one has to remember that if you are living ultra poor, you spend all day trying to make an income. That income basically pretty much feeds you for the day and the next day if you're lucky. But you can't afford to leave looking for work, chasing work, doing whatever work you can find for very long at all. Yet the VHL program asks you to leave that for a day and spend the day with the VHL teachers, with the ICM community. So to do that, they're provided with meal packs, relief packs. And each of these packs, they contain enough food for, effectively, for 6 meals. Very nutritious meals. Now, relief packs, that's also something that I strangely have a very deep passion about. How can you be passionate about relief packs, right? What I actually found was from my time post-Typhoon Yolanda, post-Typhoon Haiyan, I was in Cebu trying to work with the communities there, working with the evacuation centers, people being evacuated from Tacloban, landing up in Cebu. Their new homes were effectively evacuation centers, which were otherwise effectively basketball courts. Working with those people and going out into the various communities that also are being hit around Cebu. So this one is in Bantayan Island, where you can see the bulky boxes. Within those boxes are relief packs, as we traditionally know them here. Those relief packs are effectively, you get a plastic bag, you get 2 scoops of rice, you put it into the plastic bag, you tie the plastic bag. You then add a tin of tuna, you then add a packet of energy biscuits or dried biscuits, and then you put those into another plastic bag and everything together. That's extremely bulky. And what we actually saw post-Yolanda was that the price of these for a single pack was roughly about 240 pesos. However, the cheap rice ran out very quickly because the demand was so high, so the price of the rice went up. The cheap tins of tuna also disappeared off the market, and you were left with Canadian imported tuna. The biscuits themselves also, you were out of energy biscuits, so you were replacing them with other forms of biscuits that you could find. And the price of these relief packs had increased considerably with the inflation that Typhoon Yolanda caused around basic goods. Not only that, but you can see these are incredibly bulky. They take up a lot of space. They get wet. If they get wet, they get destroyed. The shelf life, because you just have rice in a plastic bag, is very short. You can't store these. You need to get them distributed as fast as possible. At the same time, these relief packs, they also split the plastic bags because you've got tins of tuna in them. So having finally got these bulky packs to a destination, when you're handing them out to somebody in need, you watch as some of the rice falls on the floor. It's actually frustrating from somebody who's been involved in the packing, and it's also depressing from being the recipient, seeing that actually all of this food is going to waste on the floor. So that is what an old traditional relief pack looks like. The newer relief packs, however, are very different. During my time working in Cebu, I met up with an organization called Stop Hunger Now. And now Stop Hunger Now and ICM are working together in a number of areas. Stop Hunger Now produce relief packs. So ICM historically have imported relief packs from the US, meaning they get transported across the sea as far as the Philippines. Clearly not the most efficient use of income if we can produce this locally. What Stop Hunger Now has now brought to the table is the ability to create these relief packs locally. They can be packed very tightly. They are full of nutritious ingredients. They have rice, soy, and vegetables, dried vegetables, including malunggay. They have vitamin packs added to them, sponsored by Heinz. They researched them, so it has the right kind of 21 different vitamins to help support a family. And each of these relief packs can feed one person 6 times or a family of 6 once. And they now come in 5 different flavors, including champorado and ginataan, my personal favorite. How do we actually go about packing them in the Philippines? Well, actually, this is where the corporations can come into their own. Any of you who work in a corporate, can you remember the last time that you got 12% of your workforce to come out on a Saturday to volunteer for a corporate event? I'm guessing not many of you have ever done that, so this is now my part where I get to boast. So this is what, however, we have achieved in HSBC. We had 12% of our workforce. This is already now in the 2nd year that we've done it. We have some 600 volunteers, effectively 12% of our workforce, turn up on a Saturday. That doesn't include the volunteers we had to turn away because we just simply didn't have enough funding to create a larger event. This is a fantastic event in terms of employee engagement. On a weekly basis, I have 2 or 3 sessions with various teams within the bank to ask how things are going, what feedback do they have for us, etc. Are they happy employees? The complaint that I get is, why can't we do more of these events, and why did you stop us from packing as much as we could? We always finish early. Actually, it's literally only the funding. The engagement from the employees and the fact that they get what it is that they're doing and how they are contributing is a fantastic opportunity. And right now, HSBC is the largest single corporate relief packing event held for the last 2 years in the Philippines. It's a great record to be proud of, but I would be even prouder if, as a result of speaking here, I can enthuse some corporations to do the same events and they do a larger event than ours. That would, to me, would be a real achievement from this talk. So we Stop Hunger Now, understanding that they wanted to do this in the Philippines, so we brought them to the Philippines. The first year we imported goods into the Philippines to enable us to do this. By the 2nd year, Stop Hunger Now are now locally incorporated. They can actually help set it up in the Philippines. All of the products that go into this now are from the Philippines. Not only that, but working together with ICM means that once we've provided a little bit of the funding that goes into buying these packs, they cost about 120 pesos, so compare that with the 240. The 120 pesos, by the way, also includes the distribution cost. We were able to work with ICM, who take this immediately off us. So literally we finish packing, it goes into a truck, and ICM do the rest. So it's a fantastic, phenomenal event, incredible in terms of employee engagement. It's the single best thing that we do, I would say globally, but I may be biased. But in terms of employee engagement, there really is nothing better. And that's really what I would love to see people here get involved in with their own corporations. It is a fantastic opportunity. We're also proud to sponsor ICM in a number of other ways. We're currently also sponsoring what we call the Jumpstart program, which is effectively a kindergarten in ultra-poor communities to allow the ultra-poor children to build up their own education. And I know from the statistics that having tracked some of the children that have already gone through this Jumpstart system, you'll see that a lot of them are the best performers when they hit the mainstream schools. So they really do benefit from the kindergarten experiences. We're also now providing a grant, a research grant for ICM as well, as they look to work out how do you get people who are just becoming adults, how do you get them into the workforce? How do you get them into building a sustainable income, as you move from adolescence into adulthood? What I will leave you with is a photo that I actually took in Tacloban on Christmas Day. The reason I leave you with this is because it's a photo which actually I find quite inspirational. If you just look at the face of that child, you can actually tell that that is one super intelligent child. He has a certain statesman-like presence about him. Actually, if you look at the way that he's looking at me, he kind of has a bit of the Obama look. But then you look at the surroundings that he's in. How do you ensure that that child reaches his full potential? That's where we have to work at how we lift these people out of poverty. And that's something that ICM has clearly demonstrated. As David says, when you compare it with other schemes such as the BRAC, which is a very popular, very well-known global program, versus ICM's ability at $50 a family. Now, as a corporation putting money into an organization where we want to know exactly where our money is going and we want to know that every dollar is well spent, ICM is actually pretty much close as you can get to a perfect partner. And what we really need to help this child and others like him reach their full potential is a little compassion from the corporate community as well. So I'll leave you with that photo and hope that you will follow our lead, and hope that next year I'm not in a position where I'm able to say that HSBC has the largest relief packing event, but somebody here in the audience can beat us. That would be fantastic. Thank you very much.